Sit down, guys. Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to see you this morning. Pitch at the Palace, I think I need to give you a little bit of background as to what we're doing. And you may find it rather odd or strange that a member of the royal family would be engaging in a conference such as this. Every one of the people who attend this conference are leaders in their own right. And everybody who comes to this sort of event wants to make a difference in the world. We can't solve all the problems for all the people all the time. Pitch at the Palace is designed to encourage and support entrepreneurs. Very simple. But you have to understand, to some extent, from where we came. After the financial crisis in 2008, and the job that I was doing at the time, it became evidently clear that we needed to invest in our skills and our young people's education. And then we needed to look at encouraging those people to invest in their own education, in the sciences, in engineering, and in technology. But then leading on from that, once they've got through that, what are they going to do? Who are they going to work for? Are they going to work for themselves? Are they going to work for other people? Because there are so many programs encouraging enterprise and entrepreneurship, we want in the United Kingdom to encourage as many people as possible to make that choice of being an entrepreneur. So we decided that we would look at the problem from the venture capital perspective, and it became also very, very clear, very quickly, that a member of the royal family as a venture capitalist was a bad idea. Not because venture capital is bad, but because it was an incredibly bad use of my time or of my resources. And so we struck upon the idea of being an accelerant to business. And effectively, if you just throw me on the fire of entrepreneurship, we are trying to make that fire grow brighter and get them through the complications of starting up as quickly as possible. The other difference is that I am sectorally agnostic. I don't get involved in to invest in one sector or another. That is the luxury of people like yourselves and what goes on in the finance world. I want to support entrepreneurs from every sort of background and every sort of sector. And that's a complicated thing to try and balance. So we provide an outlet every 6 months for 42 businesses of different sectors each time in order to give them the platform to be able to grow their businesses. But because of my previous life, or previous lives, both in the military and working in the international trade area, we've invited a number of people internationally to come and see what we're doing. And we have been invited by a number of countries to come and deliver this on a slightly more broad scale. So we are now looking to expand the operation from just the UK to other countries around the world in order to enhance their offering of entrepreneurs. And what we're finding is that we're finding all sorts of really extraordinary businesses around the world that nobody's ever heard of. And so we are also trying to raise the profile of those businesses. And as we expand, we will continue to offer advice, and that's basically business process engineering advice, because these businesses need to get through what I describe as the gap between where angels fear to tread, it's a little too much for them, and where the venture world can't stoop to scoop because it's too difficult for them to get down there. So that's our sweet spot. We've been doing this now for 3 years, and we've been working closely with the Milken Institute in a number of different areas on this program, and it's a great privilege to be invited here by Mike Milken to, as it were, show off what we are doing so far and our ambition. But as an introduction, just to give you a scale of where we are and what we're doing, I've got a couple of videos that I think would also add value. And the first one shows us as to what we've achieved and where we're going. There is always a moment where a world-changing idea gets the momentum it needs to break free. For entrepreneurs, Pitch at Palace creates that time or that moment. We help hatch world-changing ideas. What began as an idea to see how best to support entrepreneurs is now developing into a global initiative and is a platform dedicated to accelerating and scaling early entrepreneurial businesses. In the 3 years since I founded Pitch at the Palace, we have helped entrepreneurs generate substantial new economic activity, not just in the UK, but in several overseas markets. We and our partners work to help entrepreneurs solve their challenges by bringing them ideas and people who can help unlock the challenges they each face. My ambition is twofold. First, to build access and connectivity for our entrepreneur alumni around the world. And this connectivity is crucial to any business's growth plans. Secondly, to build a network of commercial partners who can materially add value to these businesses through their professional know-how and early intervention. Pitch Global develops our international scale, creating a global platform for entrepreneurs to seek new markets and find new partners and investors. At the same time, reaching self-sustaining growth using the Pitch at Palace global network and our audience. In 2017, Pitch Global events will expand again to take place in China, the UAE and Australia, and return to events in Africa and Latin America. And we continue to develop in the United States. Developing this connectivity will support the growth of all the entrepreneur alumni, building prosperity, creating jobs in and between the entrepreneurs and their markets. Yo-Yo, who have received partnership with Cafe Nero, Magic Pony, who recently sold to Twitter for $150 million. Duke Deck raised $3.84 million in a funding round and entered into new partnerships. We've helped Just Milk build awareness of their idea and achieve new grant funding. And Drenched, from Pitch at Palace 6.0, they are listed as one of the top 50 disrupted companies and are in discussions with new partners in a number of key new markets. As a startup and now as a scale-up, I'm experiencing some of the same anxieties and emotions that our customers feel. And as our story grows in its ambition, I say to every entrepreneur, each one of you in the audience, and importantly, to our partners, so should your ambition. Each of you can make the difference. Pitch at Palace. It really is your time. Thank you very much indeed. But that just gives you a snapshot of where we are intending to go. What I've got for you today are 5 of our alumni businesses who have already been through the process. And you will have noticed that palaces tend to be red and gold. And I say to my entrepreneurs that there is absolutely every intention to put you under as much pressure as I possibly can. Palaces are intended to be intimidating. We live in red and gold, we're happy with it, but it's when people come in that they get intimidated. And so they've been through the process and know what it's like, and I hope they will draw some of those out in the question session towards the end. But they're going to give you a snapshot of what they've done by providing a 3-minute pitch to each of you this morning. But just to give you, finally, before I exit stage right and let them get on with it, I just want to show you just one other video of the sorts of technology that we have coming through the UK. This particular one is an interesting one because he made a Healx of his pitch at the boot camp event. And so I, talking to the judges, decided that it was a good idea that he pitched at the Palace because I think he needed to go through the process again. There are members of the military here who will understand round again. And so he went round again. Well, then suddenly between that and the actual event, the Queen decided that she was going to come and see one of these events. And I thought, okay. And so I arranged a program that had her meeting the entrepreneurs, in fact, some of these, and then going out, because she only had a short period of time, as heads of state normally do. But I got a message back, no, I want to see one of the pitches. So this is the company that had to pitch to the Queen. You'll be pleased to know that Windsor Castle is going to put these around there, because we use quite a lot of water in castles. But just to give you just one further piece of statistic about that particular company, they put 8 of these taps in the public lavatories of Unilever headquarters in London, and in a week it saved Unilever 8 tons of water usage. That is an extraordinary amount of water, and is particularly relevant in urban environments rather than in rural environments. It's particularly relevant in urban environments where there is a high water usage and where there is a low rain content. Something about Los Angeles? I will leave you in the capable hands of these guys for a few minutes and then come back in a minute. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. I'm Carney, and I have the honor of moderating the panel. After you, sir. Absolutely. It's an extraordinary format, and it's a winning format, and I think you'll all see that today. I am not going to introduce myself, and I'm actually going to take the bare minimum of time to introduce the panelists and the pitch, but I would like to just offer one more round of congratulations from all of us here in the room and to the Duke for the vision of Pitch of the Palace and what it's doing to promote entrepreneurship globally. Thank you. It's hardcore. The panelists have 3 minutes. They've already done this. They came through a winnowing process that involved hundreds of other companies, so they know what to do. I'm going to kick it off directly to Joachim Hoen, who is the founder and CEO of Sam Labs. And with that, I'm just going to step off to the side, and the clock is ticking. Joachim, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Joe, the founder and CEO of Sam Labs. And at Sam, we've created a construction toy for the Minecraft generation. We've taken the latest developments and findings in educational research and the latest developments and findings in Internet of Things technology to build a one-of-a-kind educational experience. An app-enabled construction toy for 6 to 12-year-olds. Research shows us that the toys kids play with at age 6 directly dictate their interests and hobbies, which in turn dictate their career paths, especially in STEM. And with a growing skills gap in the digital economy of the 21st century, and the growing difficulties that teachers face when trying to teach STEM and programming in schools whilst having had zero training themselves, it felt like a no-brainer for us to turn to toys as a long-term solution. Toys are something that kids and students love. It's highly engaging and teach quite a lot of things. So we partner up with Microsoft Education and Intel Education to create Sam's Curious Cars Kit. Sam's Curious Cars was launched worldwide in schools and in shops in November of last year to wide acclaim. Inside of the kit, children and students found magical wireless electronic blocks the size of Lego. They were building 5 different cars, from a race car all the way to a space shuttle, using an app on a smartphone, on a tablet, or on a computer. And whilst they were having fun building these different cars, each with their own personalities, they weren't realizing that actually we were using cars as amazing catalysts to teach things like pattern recognition, logical reasoning, and algorithmic thinking. And that each level they were going through in the app were teaching them about functions, variables, and constants. Now, Sam and our team leverages the best talent from Macmillan Education, Disney, Microsoft, Skype, and Electronic Arts to build state-of-the-art games that not only entertain, but teach. And that's why we've been growing our business at 250% quarter on quarter, with 65 partners worldwide. We are now in 1,500 schools and in 20,000 homes. Toys is a very serious business. It's $100 billion a year. The fastest growing segment within that industry is a smart educational toy segment. It's growing at 42% CAGR, and last year alone accrued $5 billion of revenue. Our team is in there to make a difference. We can leverage entertainment and play for kids and actually teach them long-term skills that will last them for a lifetime. We're all interested in our kids' education, and so all I ask for you is, after the conversation, tell me about your schools and your children's school's STEM program, and if you want to have more STEM fun at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. I have the moderator's prerogative of getting to ask just one question in between all these. So just very quickly, are you valued by investors as a digital company because of the app interface, or do they see you more as a consumer company and a toy company?
We're a technology company. We've got software at the core of our offering, and having software at the core of a hardware product allows you to leverage multiple new features and multiple new revenue streams.
Thank you. I want to ask Daniel Murray next, who's founded one company that's actually very quickly morphing into yet another company, Mobula. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you to the Duke and the Milken Institute for having us on stage today. My name is Daniel. I'm the co-founder of a company called Mobula, which is a platform designed to future-proof businesses on mobile. Having, as Jared just mentioned, founded a company called Grabble in the e-commerce space, we actually built one of the biggest shopping apps in Europe. And so we know a thing or two about mobile commerce, which is why this is the vertical we're first going to focus on. But our vision is to deliver any best-in-class, fully native app experience, for, taking a 6 to 9 month development process all the way down to a day for clients and even minutes, reducing a lengthy and expensive process to a self-service process, and changing web to native mobile. Forbes named us one of London's top 5 startups, and Wired named us UK top 10 startup in 2016. So why are we building Mobula? Well, to date, only 1% of the world's e-commerce brands have native apps. Now, the reason for that is pretty simple. Fundamentally, distributing native apps is complicated and expensive, and distributing them is suffered by the fact you need to get a download. But if you think about it, all the apps you use on your phone, all the time you spend on your phone is spent in native apps. So Mail, Facebook, Uber, even Tinder for those of you swiping right now. All of them are built natively. None of them use mobile web because it's a substandard experience. Fundamentally, that causes massive churn and leaves money on the table for customers. What we're building at Mobula is a fully native mobile platform that's agnostic to anywhere where customers are, whether it's iOS or Android, Facebook or WeChat. We believe that the platforms that the world does business on are where customers are, and we want to enable those experiences for our clients today. So building a big vision like this obviously requires quite a serious team, and I'm proud to say we've got an excellent one. So there's 16 of us based in London. We're looking to move to LA, so if you have any benefactors, then please step up. But fundamentally, we're very proud to say myself and my business partner are third-time entrepreneurs. So I guess we'd call ourselves serial entrepreneurs in America. We big things up. And we have a CTO who is actually one of our first investors. He was a CTO co-founder of a technology business that he sold to WPP, and we have a recent commercial director that's helped scale businesses from startup to exit 3 times over from London to the Valley. And we've got a chairman on board who helps guide us, I'd say, who's also the chairman of Fujitsu, which is a FTSE 100 company where he served as chairman for the last 12 years. We have very ambitious, exciting investors. In the last month alone, we raised £1 million from high net worths, including Guy Hans of Terra Firma, Alex de Carvalho Heineken of the Heineken family, and vice chairman of both Morgan Stanley and Credit Suisse. And we'd be looking for any ambitious, energetic, and exciting individuals to join our journey. Thank you very much for your time. And incidentally, it's my birthday, so drinks on the Duke afterwards. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Daniel. Thank you. Daniel, sounds like what you're doing is you're going squarely into a space that maybe some large players would be eyeing, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world. Are you at all concerned about that type of competition?
So, this is quite loud, isn't it? Fundamentally, we're playing into those are platform spaces, and they actually open up opportunities for us. Great. So, as a key example, I think when I met you, I mentioned we just come from a meeting at Instagram who are looking to partner with us because we enable them to make more money. They're an advertising company, not a commerce company. The more we can facilitate experiences for their brands to have better experiences and spend more dwell time on Instagram, the better it is for them.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Tim Guillams, who is the founder of Healx. Tim, thank you.
Hi. So 1 in 17 people in this room will one day or throughout their lifetime be affected by a rare disease. And globally, that's 350 million people. And if you want to have an idea of size, that equals to the population of the United States. So there are 7,000 rare diseases in total, and 95% don't have a cure. So I'm Tim. I'm the founder and CEO of Healx, and we're a technology startup which spin out of Cambridge University. We focus on drug matching for rare and orphan diseases. And the technology which we use combines machine learning, data analytics with genomics and what we call multi-omics. And so we look at your genome, transcriptome, proteome, and build an integrated computational model where every gene, every reaction, every metabolic pathway is being computed to generate a unique disease and patient signature, which we use to do the drug matching. We have a very strong social mission and purpose, so we work directly with patient advocacy groups and research charities in rare diseases. And the stage of the company, of where we're at the moment, so we started 3 years ago when I finished my PhD. We're now 15 people, raised $2.5 million, and are generating revenue. We were awarded Life Science Business of the Year in Cambridge, Graduate Business of the Year in 2016. And my ask to you guys today are 2 things. The first one is introduction to patient advocacy groups and research charities. We'd love to help them to accelerate treatments for their disease. And the second one is introductions to potential investors. So we're not raising money at the moment, but we're planning a Series B round of about $10 million next. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Tim, do you, it sounds like you're going through the patient advocacy groups because they have a lot of leverage, obviously, with industry and pharma. Does that mean you have a substantial dependency on accessing drug libraries at the pharmaceutical companies?
Very good question. So we strongly believe in the first instance that patient advocacy groups and patients actually need to be at the center of the equation, and that people need to develop some tools to empower them. And then at the moment, what we do with them is looking at existing drugs or nutraceuticals which could help relieve their symptoms. From the biotech companies and pharma companies, we're being increasingly approached as well, and there we could help them identify the best rare orphan disease for their drug.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Jason Lee, who is the founder and CEO of illumr. Jason, thanks.
Thank you, Jared. So good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Lee, and I'm the founder and CEO of illumr. So our value proposition in one line is that we can help you better understand and predict patterns of behavior that affect your organizations. And to do that, we're spinning off some fantastic technology that has over a decade's worth of academic research behind it. And what, for me, makes our software so unique is that we can take data, really any kind of data, and we self-organize it in 3D to reveal previously hidden patterns. Now, the reason that's important is that large private and public sector organizations are currently spending billions annually trying to uncover the rules linking human behaviors and business activities. And through data mining technologies, they try to find those patterns, such as, are these insurance claims fraudulent, or will these customers buy our product if it's marketed to them? But the problem they will face is that whilst computers are exceptional at computational analysis, they're still relatively poor at finding patterns in data. And so what illumr does is it recognizes both the strengths and weaknesses of the human brain and information technologies. And we leverage the computational power of computers to turn those data sets and the insights that exist within them into understandable 3D patterns that our brains can then recognize. Our solution is so powerful that we actually have a proven ability to reveal new insights that all other methodologies and tools may miss. So I'll give you a real use case example. We've just been working with RHP, who are the leading social housing provider in the UK. And they wanted to better understand the number of repairs associated with their properties. We were able to reveal some unique insights they'd never seen before. Things like the age of the property, its size and its type actually has no effect on the number of repairs carried out. This was a counterintuitive insight that had been missed by all other tools in the marketplace. And that, for me, therefore, has profound implications for your organization's data stores and really helping to reveal new insights that you're currently blind to. Now, the market opportunity right now is huge. IDC are predicting that the global cognitive and AI market was worth $8 billion last year and will be close to $47 billion in less than 4 years. And so to reach that market, we put together a fantastic team. George is our chief data scientist. He's from the University of Cambridge as well. He's an expert in cognitive science and neurocomputational modeling. Ian, our CTO, is an industry-recognized expert. He actually wrote the Ministry of Defense and NATO Enterprise Architecture Frameworks. And Bob heads up our research at the university. His computer science department are actually ranked #1 in the country, according to the Guardian's League Table in 2014. But the quality of our team is probably best evidenced by some of our key achievements. We've won a global competitive bid with the MOD Home Office and Serious Organised Crime Agency in countering terrorist networks. We've won 2 competitive Innovate UK Smart Awards. We're part of the Homeland Security Trade Mission with the British Embassy in Washington. And most lately, we've been chosen as one of only 2 AI companies globally to be part of the Founders Factory Accelerator in London. And that's being backed by the CSC Group, as I'm sure you're aware of, just putting $400 million into AngelList. So we are currently fundraising right now for seed investments. So if there are any of you in the audience interested in participating, I'd love to talk to you afterwards. If you go onto the Milken app, you'll actually find some more information about our company. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Jason, how much, when you do and you create the analytics and the visualization that you do, are you dependent on client data? And how much do you bring in data from the outside, and how do you make the decision to find that data?
I think, candidly with you, Jared, the biggest problem we have as a startup is getting access to that data. In the verticals we're targeting, which are life sciences, big pharma, healthcare for improved patient outcomes, in financial services with financial fraud, a lot of this data is tied down in compliance issues, or it's very sensitive clinical trials data. And so for a startup to actually engage with these organizations is very, very difficult. And actually, it's almost a leading question, because that's why we went on Pitch at Palace. It had a biotech theme last year, and that really got us the inside track into some very, very senior people in these organizations that can basically help accelerate that.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, we've got the American on the panel, Rockwell Shah, who is the founder and CEO of Pzizz. Thank you.
My name is Rockwell Shah, CEO of Pzizz, where we put people to sleep at the push of a button. I need you to work with me here. So raise your hand if you know anybody, including yourself, that has problems sleeping at night. Raise your hand. Keep your hands raised. Now look at the room. See how many people have their hands raised. That, my friends, is a very big market. So it turns out poor sleep has been declared a public health epidemic. 60 million people in the US, 31% of Europe, globally 2 billion people suffer from insomnia. Now, the vast majority of cases of poor sleep are caused by the same simple disease. It's just too much thinking. People lie awake at night, unable to shut off their brains. So the key is, if you can quiet someone's mind, you can get them to fall asleep. And that's what Pzizz does. Our patented system plays you a sleep-optimized mix of music, voiceover, and sound effects that changes each night, that will quickly quiet your mind, put you to sleep, keep you asleep, and then wake you up feeling refreshed. We're combining the science of psychoacoustics, clinical sleep hypnosis, and personalization through learning algorithms. It's wild, but it's incredibly effective. In fact, our iOS and Android apps have helped over 500,000 people from around the world get the best sleep of their lives. We've been written about in the New York Times, Wired, Sports Illustrated, you name it. And we have some great celebrity testimonials, including J.K. Rowling, who said that it was the best thing that she's used for sleep by a mile. Our business model is straightforward. It's a simple monthly subscription to great sleep. We launched our paid application in October of last year. In the first 30 days, we generated over $42,000 of revenue and became profitable. Since then, we're growing 20% month over month, at least every month. We've also gone beyond the app. We're integrated into corporate nap pods all around the world in places like Mercedes, Zappos, we're at JFK Airport, we're at London Luton Airport. We're in Merck Pharmaceuticals' corporate wellness program. Now think about that. Merck, a pharma company, uses us in their own corporate wellness. Doctors are on the ground prescribing Pzizz to patients right now. We're in talks with airlines to bring Pzizz to airplanes. Everywhere that you need to get sleep, we're going to be there for you. Now, I've never actually publicly announced this or talked about it, but we just developed a technology that will detect your frequency of breath and your heart rate without touching you and without a wearable, just using your phone. And it has clinical grade accuracy. Now imagine that. How is that going to change fitness tracking and health tracking and sleep tracking when people don't have to worry about charging something or putting something on their body? They can already use the device that they have with them all the time, wirelessly. You know, doctors talk about there's 3 pillars to health, right? There's nutrition, there's exercise, and you guessed it, there's sleep. And as a society, we've talked a lot about nutrition and exercise over the last decade. But now is truly time for the sleep revolution. So take out your phones, download the app, it's called Pzizz, and start getting the sleep that you know you need. And just incidentally, if you happen to know the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings, I would love an intro, because he said that sleep is his biggest competitor. So have a couple of things to talk to him about.
Thank you, Rockwell.
Take care.
Thank you. Rockwell, is there an irony, perhaps even an inherent contradiction in using technology to enhance sleep? Do you get criticism from certain quarters about that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly technology is a double-edged sword, right? But so are knives, right? You can use them for cooking, or you can use them to stab people, right? Technology is the same way.
All right, thank you. Great job, everybody. And before we open it up generally, I want to ask another battery of questions, and I actually want to start with the Duke. So we were having a brief chat before, and I think there was a very interesting perspective that I learned that you were talking about. That you described the vision earlier for Pitch at Palace and this global network. But could you also describe a little bit what we talked about in terms of your long-term perspective?
Yes. Coming from the family business that I do, we tend to look very, very long-term, not only in the past, but also in terms of the future. We're not interested in legacy so much as we're interested in creating opportunity. And as a result of that, I've been listening to a lot of what Jim Kim has been saying from the World Bank in the last couple of days. And it is amazing how coincident some of the things that he's saying and some of the things that we're actually trying to achieve. He's trying to encourage people to get a better return from the use of their money and actually make people's lives better. We are trying to encourage enterprise and entrepreneurs in order for that activity to be more readily available across the world. We've found that as a result of starting Pitch at Palace and doing it in the UK, that there are other people who are equally interested in our platform and what we are doing. That's a tremendous accident, if you want, but because we can see that this is going to have an advantage to a lot of entrepreneurs, and as you've seen this morning, these guys are pretty diverse, and this is only what we've done in 3 years. What we're going to find globally in the long term might just be something that investors and other people who are likewise interested in creating opportunity for people in the future might find interesting.
It's remarkable. It's 1,000 years plus of perspective fueling a modern enterprise in fostering and facilitating entrepreneurship.
I hadn't looked at it like that until you asked me, but
It's not exactly the typical venture capitalist mentality. I'll tell you that. You don't see that in Silicon Valley. For the entrepreneurs. So will anybody of you talk about whether you had any type of skepticism going into the Pitch at Palace process?
Oh, I had enormous skepticism. An American going to the palace? Crazy. I didn't think they'd let me in.
Why did you do it? Why did you find yourself in London at the palace?
So Pzizz ended up being part of a startup accelerator in London called Wyra. And we got hold that there was this big startup competition called Pitch at the Palace. And I didn't really understand, as an American, I didn't really understand how impactful it would be to actually make it to the finals and meet the Duke and the Queen. But it's been amazing. And it's opened so many doors that, frankly, wouldn't have been opened otherwise.
One of the things that we were also talking about in the beginning of is that there are some things that you have in common. Relative age is one of them. There does seem to be a tech bias, sir, to the companies, which isn't necessarily intentional, but maybe that's just the way the world is going, obviously. But another thing is that all of you seem to have inherently global businesses from day one. I mean, Joachim, you want to talk about where the distribution of your labor is and your capital base?
Yeah. Also, I think from a UK perspective, we're always very much encouraged, thanks to local support, to think global immediately. We are in 76 countries so far, and that almost from day one with the crowdfunding campaign as well. And I believe the rest of the guys also have a global outlook. We've got operations in China and in San Francisco, with the headquarters being based in London. And what the pitch has done for us is also allow us to strengthen, well, first of all, create certain relationships and then nurture them afterwards, global. You've seen with missions in China, Australia, the UAE, South America. These are the kind of things we get to go to.
Sir?
I was only going to say that in the UK, you have to look at it that the US market is 300 plus million people. It's very easy to get seduced into your own domestic market. Whereas in the UK, we're only 60 to 80 million people. That's not big enough. It's big enough for certain aspects of technology and business, but actually it's not big enough. So you've got to go and search markets. Now, the UK either had the good fortune or the misfortune, depending on your point of view, of having an empire. And so now we have a Commonwealth. So it's almost natural for anybody who does business in the UK to think in a global fashion. And so therefore, I don't think we don't look at it from the point of view of just a UK market. Once you enter onto the web, you are an international global company. Get used to it. And what I find now is that more and more entrepreneurs do not take account of national boundaries. They just get on with it. And one of the issues that is coming to the fore at the moment, I see, is how do governments keep up with that? It's too difficult for them.
Daniel, you have a perspective?
Yeah, I was going to say, so when we launched Grabble, which was our original flagship shopping product, it was very UK focused, and it's quite difficult to scale like a e-commerce shopping product internationally as different customer service, etc. But we were really interested in some of the advantages you have being in the UK. So the UK is the most online country in the world as a percentage of the population. We also have the highest penetration of smartphones. So we have, and it's, comes down to really obvious stuff. We're a small country with a big population, and everywhere is served really well by telecoms, and all the advantages to really understand the mobile market ahead of anywhere else in the world. So that was a starting point to think about how can we extend our technology and turn this into something more valuable. And as an example, we launched a product off our own platform. Our idea is to build our own B2C products as well as the B2B side to test them and test users through them. And we launched it, and as an international business, it's currently, as of today, the number one app in 7 countries outside of the UK. Can't make it number 1 in the UK, sadly, but hey. Right. But it's just flying in other countries. So it's a really good example, and that all comes down to understanding mobile, we think, better than anyone else in the world.
Tim, diseases are pretty global in nature, rare diseases especially.
Yeah, so for us as well, we actually have more customers in the US than we have in Europe. And I'm still talking about Europe because I'm actually from Brussels. So Brexit or not, the royal family have actually been the most supportive and impactful to our business. And so if you're asking as a foreigner, okay, the support you get, etc., it's been absolutely amazing. And being able to go to the palace, absolutely amazing. And next month, we're actually going to Singapore with the Duke. And we've been contacted by the Ministry of Health of Singapore who are interested in our technology. And so you go from thinking very small, Cambridge, UK kind of, how do you call them, shopkeeper mentality to thinking globally, going to the Milken conference, going to Singapore, etc. So it's been, really good.
Jason?
Absolutely, yeah. I think from my perspective, going into the Pitch at Palace event, it was a real eye-opener because the verticals we're looking at were healthcare, life sciences, financial services, and to get engaged with some of these big companies is quite a difficult process. But what we had was introductions to some very senior people who had global outlooks from day one. So Don Robert, the chairman of Experian, approached me afterwards. Lord Billy Moria of Corabia, had vice presidents of AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, CTO of the Home Office. Just really, really incredible introductions, and that really facilitates business in that way because you're working top down instead of bottom up, which is a new dynamic.
Well, so Tim brought up the B word. I did. Okay.
Right.
So, and Jason, you and Daniel are homegrown UK. How revolutionary is this concept of capital acceleration, relationship acceleration partnership in, on a relative basis to the US? So here in the US, you can see at this conference, which is the largest gathering of the capital markets in the world, there's still a bias on emerging technology, into emerging technology. So, this is a California infused, a lot of California DNA in this gathering. How does that relate to where you're coming from as British entrepreneurs?
I think some of the differences the Dukes recognized a huge gap in the market between the reality of how hard it is to build a meaningful business. So yeah, you can scale up a seed to a Series A business if those goalposts are really modest and you don't actually have a big ambition. But this is some of the problem that we've had in Britain before is you don't try and build really ambitious businesses because the pillars aren't there for you to try and do that, and they all are here. A difference between the Milken conference, as an example, you talk about early stage business here would be like, I've only raised $30 million. Like, it's really hard because I can't find my 4,000 employee. That's the situation you have here. Whereas I think what the Duke recognizes is that maybe not reality in the rest of the world. Certainly in Britain, starting up a company as you start it up just yourself or just you and your business partner for an entire year, grinding in front of a laptop, trying to work out what to do, going from seed to the next step is a huge gap. And I think, the Duke said it best with where VCs won't stoop to scoop, say it the right way around. And it's valid, right? There's a real gap in between the two posts, and we don't have a massive VC market in the UK. There's a huge one here. There's micro funds. There's everything. Mm-hmm. I could probably name you 20 VCs in the UK if I tried really hard to think of all of them. And so what they're looking for is much more.
Rockwell, is it that easy here? Is it as easy as Daniel says? On a relative basis?
I mean, I would say it's definitely easier here than the UK. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the numbers support that. I think the data supports that. But London is now one of the top 5 startup markets in the world. So it's definitely rising.
Interesting.
But the UK is a very interesting place. I'm from Brussels as well.
Yeah.
Actually, we're here both on a panel here. London has the best talent density in the world. You've got the best engineering schools that are within a few kilometers away, the best design schools, the best business schools. So it's creating this amazing pool of international talent that's forcing you to think global. I mean, because half of your workforce will be international from day one. But the capital is being injected. I'm actually quite positive about the venture capital space in London, but we're now really gaining an advantage with the whole, I mean, the country as a whole and all the supporting bodies from the royal family to the government to really trying to propel us into growth and generating British business.
Actually, a fun fact, most people think London is the biggest in terms of VC funding in the UK, and that's true. Most people would guess that the second biggest market is Cambridge, and that's not true. It's actually Edinburgh. And a lot of the engineering talent is actually coming out of Edinburgh, not Cambridge.
Scottish.
Fun fact for you.
So, thank you. So we have time for questions. Just a couple of rules. A question, please. No speeches. Thank you very much. It's a house rule. We have microphones, I think, in the room. So we've got a question down here in front. Thank you. If you just wait here, ma'am.
Good morning, Serena Rosser from Australia. This is for you, Duke. I'd like to congratulate you on Pitch at Palace. I think it's phenomenal. And as an entrepreneur myself, where I started a company with $2,600, and now 38 years later, it's a $100 million turnover, I'm truly inspired by your initiative. But my question is that when you're an entrepreneur, you have to continuously learn. Is there any way that you can add to this model, like we have Rosso Business School, where our degree is entrepreneurship? It's great to be able to start up, but unless you have continuous learning, you can fail. So, Duke, do you have an educational model attached to this? And if so, can we become sponsors for such initiative? Once again, congratulations in coming to Australia. We're excited.
Thank you. The answer to the question is yes, we are continuously being ambitious ourselves, and if you're going to help entrepreneurs and you're going to help businesses, you're going to have to find a way of being able to give them that education and that advice. It's a continuous process. We look at 5 things. We look at mentors and trying to find these guys really good mentors. We then try to find them distribution systems and supply chains. We then try and find them connectivity. All right, the connectivity that by coming here, serendipitously, there are people within this room who will go, I can help them. And if you can, get on and do it. The last thing that we're looking for in many respects is actually the investment piece, because the investment piece takes such a long time. But there's one key element that I think is now missing, which I describe as business process engineering, which is that how do we get these businesses to understand the process of doing businesses? Is it right for the entrepreneur himself to be the businessman? Shouldn't we put people alongside them of like mind and like age in order to take off some of the business process part of it? So what we're trying to do now is to expand our offering in order to be able to provide that advice. Now the difficulty is that a lot of people have tried this before and it hasn't worked. So we're going to have another go at it. And I think that to some extent I'm uniquely placed because of my background and the areas in which we have worked in the past and where we are working now. I straddle that very dangerous gap between philanthropy and high-risk capital at that stage to investment capital. I am territorially agnostic and I am sectorally agnostic, and as far as I'm concerned, it's about these people, not about me. I need to get these people in front of the right people and the right businesses and the right partners, give them the right advice and get them. It doesn't make any difference to me if they all up sticks and move because California is the right place to come. It may equally be that actually China is the right place for them, not the United States. Equally, I can get them into China. The Commonwealth connection in Australia, again, one of the things that I learned early on in this was that the gap between business schools and the business school output and what these guys are trying to do is too wide. We need to de-risk these programs as far as we possibly can so that by the time they get to a venture capital organization, all this is dealt with. Yeah. So I'm trying to deal in that little tiny area. Very difficult to do, but it's not the sort of thing that a fully commercial engine could do. So that's what we're doing, and we are going to continue to expand that. How we expand that depends on, as it were, feedback and, as it were, our activity stream and who we garner together as partners. What I'd really like is for the professional services firms, banks, lawyers, accountants, consultants, private equity, to a certain extent, not the VCs, because the VCs are a pipeline. Mm-hmm. So we would provide those services through the banks, but in some respects through their CSR budget, not through their commercial budget. But I would be offering them a commercial opportunity to be able to access the really new starting up businesses and scaling up businesses that they're going to have a relationship with in the long term. It's a trade deal, for want of a better word. But we've got to give them the advice, because if we can, don't take this the wrong way, guys, but if we can fail businesses early, and we can identify the businesses that are going to be successful earlier, then the capital that is provided by the venture firms will be more successful rather than less. Instead of having 1 in 10, they might have 3 out of 10. Well, that's a huge better use of capital. That's what we're about.
It's a different paradigm. I want to just follow up on the question in another way also with the entrepreneurs, because the idea of education and continuing education, learning. Do you have time to learn as someone who's started a company?
I think the most important thing for an entrepreneur is to get great advisors, and it's actually 2 of my 3 advisors have actually come from Pitch at Palace, believe it or not. Hannity, who's the founder of the Entrepreneurship Centre at the Cambridge Judge Business School, and Nick Halstead, who founded DataSift and created the retweet button. And both of those I found through Pitch at Palace. But when you've got superstars like that who've built businesses, who know what they're doing and they can actually advise you, that's part of the journey, And getting people who are going to tell you things you don't like, I think, is part of the educational process. Absolutely.
Daniel?
So I think the reality is it's your primary job to learn and relearn. And there's a great quote by one of my favorite authors, Alvin Toffler, who said, "The illiterate of the 21st century won't be those who can't read and write. There'll be those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn." And I think that's exactly the space that entrepreneurs play in, right? Because you have the big industries and the incumbents that are there, and they're too big to unlearn and relearn. And that's where we have an opportunity to come in with new skills and consistently innovate and change. So I kind of look at it as my primary job to learn. And I think I was talking to Amanda actually about the content here. This is an amazing place to learn about what else is going on in the world. And this is a fantastic place for great content. But this kind of learning and this kind of education is what makes us build great companies.
And while we get to come here at Milken Institute, we don't get to come to these conferences every week. And so how do we learn as entrepreneurs is also quite important. And again, kudos to London. The community of entrepreneurs in London, because it doesn't have the same access to capital, has had to find different ways of coping and growing, which has built one of the strongest, most supportive communities in the world. And actually, you're well placed to talk about it with several things like the Founders Group and Upscale. These are thousands of entrepreneurs inside of London that share emails, drinks at the pub, dinners, and share coping mechanisms, but also best practices. They organize seminars, weekends away, and these are just entrepreneurs that at CEO level share their knowledge, but then also create activities for their COOs, CTOs, and junior members of their team. And this is the best way to learn.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest challenges, at least for me at this stage, is really scale up and having the scaling mentality. And so if any of you actually have good advice to young entrepreneurs who are now at that stage, please do contact us. And also, I think I want to put my hand up because as a scientist by background, so my PhD was in biophysics, it's a pretty damn steep learning curve to start a company, raise some money, focus on, but it's great. But so without the support, and thank God nobody expected me to have an MBA, but yeah, without that, it's pretty impossible, I think.
I think we have time for a couple more questions. There's one right here, this gentleman. Thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering, what is the phase of company that you're finding? Kind of how long have they been in business before they come to pitch at the Palace, and what's the gender breakdown? I run a fund, and I'm typically investing in male founders as well because it's in the industry most often, but if you look at the panel, not to be offensive, it's fairly stereotypical if you look across the group.
Interestingly, I think it's just a matter of time and availability. We don't have a gender bias in any particular direction in the UK, and nor do I. And we see everybody, and it's all on merit. In fact, Just Milk are two American PhD students from Cambridge, and they won the pitch a couple of 3 times ago, pitch 5. And in fact, the most recent winner of pitch was another female entrepreneur. So it's not, we don't have, I think it's just a function of who's available to come rather than anything else. And the other thing is that we see them at any stage. And if they apply through the internet. So it's a straightforward application process. And it depends on, to some extent, on what the judging panel, and you saw a photograph, the judging panel is quite large, or the selection panel is quite large. Doesn't include me. I'm not having anything to do with, I don't want to get, but they do the selections from roughly between 500 and 600 a time that we look at, because we're sectorally focused each time on a different sector. So we narrow the field down a little bit, because if we just said to everybody, come on, we would have far too many to be able to cope with. So we look at any stage to some extent. It's interesting, in each individual sector, we might look at earlier or later. So for the medical, we're looking at a slightly later stage, and we're looking at a larger investment package, usually because of clinical trials, looking at about 10 million, but some of them we're looking at 1, 2, 3 million, and sometimes 100,000 is all it takes, because they've got revenue.
Interesting. Thank you. The lady over here has a question. There's a microphone coming to you.
I'm an angel investor, so I'm somebody you want to know. I invest in companies like you, but I'm also a Kauffman Fellow, which is a network of venture capitalists and angels and funders of companies like you. Are you well aware of the Kauffman Fellows program? We're a global network, and we'd love to partner with you all and share best practices, entrepreneur-centric best practices of investing in companies like you. Are you aware of the program?
Not yet, but we are here to learn, and my staff are sitting right in front of you, so they can be definitely in touch with you.
And the entrepreneurs will be sure to be in touch with you right after. Absolutely. So I want to, I think we're getting close to our allotted time. So I want to very quickly, really quickly, put the entrepreneurs on the spot one more time. You guys didn't do one thing in any of your presentations that I was expecting you to do. You didn't tell us what your goal for your company is. How big do you want to be? What kind of penetration do you have? Do you have a vision for the size of the company that you're building right now? And we'll just go down the line. Rockwell, starting with you.
I mean, our vision and our mission is to bring great sleep to the world. You know, there's 2 billion people in the world that suffer from insomnia. It's about a quarter or a third of the world's population. And until we solve that, we're not going to rest easy ourselves.
Thank you. Jason?
I think we have a $1 billion company in the making, a global $1 billion company. And we can change the world by making data visual, empowering people to see the value of that data in a different way.
Thank you. Tim?
So our mission is to help rare disease patients by intelligently matching drug treatments and become a global leader in personalized drug matchings, which the models can actually do.
Thank you. Daniel?
So we're democratizing an experience that currently only 1% of companies can actually have access to and giving it to the other 99%. So just on that alone, it's a multi-billion-dollar ambition.
Joe?
We want to give and support every child to discover the fun in creation and coding. If you look at any other big toy companies out there, it's $9 billion yearly revenue. Adding the software and the hardware creates a new market cap in the gaming market with educational benefits. It's quite a beautiful ambition.
And to the Duke, we give you the last word, particularly on your ambition for Pitch at Palace.
My ambition is to continue doing what we're doing and to grow it around the world. If there was one piece of advice that I got from Mark Andreessen, which I think was probably the thing that has stuck in my mind most, as I was going out of the door, and I did come to California a number of years ago to discuss this with a number of venture capital firms, and the thing that struck me was he said, whatever you do, do not copy what the Valley does. And so with that ringing in my ear, and with the idea of being an accelerant to business, I've gone about it in a way that suits the ecosystem of the United Kingdom. It just so happens that what we're trying to do actually is transferable to other jurisdictions and other territories. And so if we can help businesses grow and get through the difficult process early and find them a way of being able to introduce them to the right people, then we're here to do that.
Thank you. I want to thank His Royal Highness and the panelists and encourage you all to interact with them here in the follow-up after the session. Thank you.